Hello and welcome to this presentation today. My name's Mrs. Hill and I'm going to be carrying out this presentation for you about revision and how do we allow our students to revise effectively in our school, but also how can you help as parents and carers prepare your students for their upcoming exams. So there is no better way to start this than talking about what is revision and what's the point, because that's often the question we get asked by the students in school. But the teachers understand the importance of revision because revision allows you simply to become more fluent in the subject-based lessons that they're taking. It allows them to become experts, if you like, of whatever knowledge has been taught. And I've got two diagrams in here, and I remember when I first saw these, they were quite powerful to me in understanding how important revision is. And this is Ebbinghouse's forgetting curve. So what happens is, when we learn information, our memory weakens over time and we forget it. So if we learn something new but make no attempt to relearn that information, we just remember less and less of it as the hours, the days, the weeks, the years go by, we forget it. And even though our memory fades quickly, as humans, a review session soon after the original learning can really help to stop us forgetting the information we've been taught. Now, this session that they do, this review we do these in lessons as well, should happen when the recall has slipped significantly, but not so much that the information's been forgotten and that we need to relearn, because essentially that's just starting over again. That's not reviewing. So if we look at that second diagram on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that reviewing and refreshing our memory, so to speak, about information, and if we do that regularly, it halts the forgetting curve. So although we do start forgetting again, as you can see in this picture, we do start forgetting. As soon as we do that first review, the forgetting curve is less and it gets less and less over time. So the gaps between the review sessions can be longer as time goes on because you're starting to retain that information. So you might go from doing learning sessions quite frequently to being able to space them out more. So you might do it the following day and then you'll do it 2 days later and then a week after and then 30 days later. You'll still know that key information a month on if you keep reviewing information that's been taught. If we move on, we do lots of things at school to support your students in their revision already. So we've got stuff like online digital platforms such as GCSE Pod, we've got Tassamai, we've got My Maths, we've got revision guides. I know my music students have been given their revision guides now. We have this period 5 for all our year 11 students. I see year 11s doing lots of practice exam questions and taking papers home, but we're also setting homework to support revisiting and relearning of what's been taught in the lesson. We're trying to keep it as fresh as we can and reviewing it as many times as we can to halt the forgetting curve that we've talked about earlier. So, what can you do at home to support your students? Well, it's really important that they have somewhere to revise. You know, that's sometimes what I get from my year 11s is I've got nowhere to go. So it's really important about making that area that is for their revision that is free from distractions. There's no point in having that in the living room where you've got the TV on and all sorts of distractions for them, but somewhere they can go to sit and revise. It's really important that they create a realistic revision timetable. It was excellent when year 11 last year started writing these, and I had such high hopes, you know, they were going to do 5 hours, but it's not realistic. So a realistic revision time that you can come up with together that sets out how they're going to plan their revision in order to be the most successful they can for their exams. Think about what exam is coming first. You know, think about their strengths and weaknesses. Help them find a technique. So, and I'm going to take you through a few on the following slides, but finding a technique that's good for them. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So is it revision cards? Is it online quizzes? Is it recording themselves, almost doing a podcast? That's what I used to do. I used to record myself, play myself on my phone as I fell asleep. Or is it doing past exam papers? What suits their needs? Become mythbusters. That's what we have to do at school as well. So you may hear such things as, I'll revise last minute. Last minute cramming does not work. So only if you have revised hard beforehand does last minute cramming work to retrieve that information and bring it to the forefront, but only if you already know it. So we get other mythbusters such as I can't revise. You can. You absolutely can. It might be tricky. Yes, it's going to be boring. Yes, it's going to be hard, but everyone can do it if you've got the right strategy and with effort. Everyone can do that. Another one is, oh, my brother, my sister, my friends didn't revise and they got really, really good grades. Nobody gets excellent results in examinations without putting any effort in. So they may not have been visible, they might not have been seen doing it, or they might have worked incredibly hard in lessons and less well at home doing revision, but they definitely did something to get those grades. And you're not them. Also, my friends aren't revising. They told me. Nobody ever goes around shouting about how hard they're revising at home. They don't do that. So we all want to look natural as if it comes quite easy, but they are revising and they're probably just not talking about it. So don't believe them and get caught out. That's what we say to them. Or, I don't know how to revise. It's probably the latest one I've got from my year 11s. Brilliant. Mr. Puttick has so many strategies that he's going to take year 11 through, and all of our teachers are equipped with strategies of how to revise for their subject to help them. So here's just a few. Now, this is some research that was done, and the green is what came out as quite highly effective, all the way down to red, which was actually seen as being ineffective revision techniques. So if we look down the list, we've got our green of practice testing. So almost exam paper revision testing. So doing exam papers over and over again. What did I get wrong? What did I not get marks wrong? Right, get the next one. Long-term revising, so distributed practice, talking about that review and revisiting. So implementing a scheduled practice that spreads out activities over time. And then we've got all the way down to the bottom, which is just reading, rereading, restudying text material again and again and again, and just reading and not doing anything with that information, which we'll talk about later, has quite a small impact. As well as just going through your book and underlining. Unless you're taking in that information and doing something with the words or the text that you're underlining, it's not an effective revision strategy. So I'm going to take you through some of the ones that I do within my classes, or some of the ones that I have actually done myself. So there's a real classic of look, say, cover, write, check. So looking at something, saying it out loud, covering it up. Can I write it down? Let me check if I got it right. That's really good for the student who's on their own and focusing maybe on an equation that they need for physics, or focusing on some dates maybe they need from history. Can they do that? Look, say, cover, write, check. Quizzing themselves. There's loads of online quizzes. Our kids do Caboodle, etc., other online quizzes that I've seen them doing in IT, and lots of teachers have created quizzes for them. Can they do that? Past exam papers has to be one of my favourite. You know, you get to see, look and feel what an exam paper looks like, and then you get to give that to the teacher and you get to have it marked, and then you can exactly see what I need to look at, what do I not. Is it I need to look at the content because this part of the topic is quite a weakness for me, or is it how I'm writing and structuring the question? Because often it's one or the other. Next one, get active. So we all know that underlining key points from a topic in your subject book isn't enough. So once you've underlined them, create a mind map as colourful as you can. Then create flashcards, then test yourself. And what I used to do is I used to then have those flashcards, and the stuff I knew I'd take off. So I had less and less flashcards, which felt better knowing that I had to learn less to be really well equipped for my exam. Love a flashcard, but make it colourful, make it stand out. I saw someone the other day on their iPad making fantastic flashcards on there with their pen and highlighting and adding pictures. And if we can relate content to pictures and just help our schema build within our brains of being able to remember, oh, I remember that because it had a flower next to it. Oh, do you remember on my flashcard I had these arrows? It really, really helps to bring that up, bring that to the forefront in your exams. Graphic organisers. Again, we're talking about how sometimes in a subject such as history, there's just so much content to learn. So to have that out, have it separated from modern medicine over there, have it over here to key people within modern medicine, the next topic that they took over here, having it all based out on a sheet of paper to understand where am I, what do I need to learn, cool, what do I know, what don't I know. Sorry, Okay. A memory technique, so explaining it to someone else. So often as parents, it's really useful for us to go, right, what have you been learning out? Great. And seeing if they can explain that concept to someone else and maybe then ask them some questions on that. Why is that? Who was that person and how does that relate to there? How would you summarize that? Just to check that they've understood it and can they answer those questions. And it also then will prompt their brain to work with the material in a new way. So they're having to consolidate everything they know to try and explain it to someone. So you can talk to your friends about that, or you can talk to family members about that. Get them to quiz you on a topic. Can you answer those questions? Rehearse it. Don't know if you know, but your brain is a massive memory bank. That's what it is. But unlike a computer, it needs you to go over new information several times for it to sink in. So we always need to create a new memory for new content, but that involves a new pathway being laid down between the brain cells you've got. But this pathway will disappear unless, like we've talked about, the work gets revisited. And that's why sometimes the homework is stuff that they have done in the lesson, but that's because we need to make sure we are building that strengthening that pathway so that they can pull that information up for their exam. And then sleep on it. So this is an easy one, and I liked this one, and I did this one myself. So I learned stuff, and then you go to bed. But I used to also record myself saying key facts, and I would listen to that as I fell asleep. But sometimes sleeping is so useful for our memory. We need to make sure we're getting good night's sleep, good quality sleep. So learn the stuff, then go to bed, or even just take a nap. Either way, your brain will still be rehearsing that information, but without any effort from your conscious self. So studies have shown that recall really does improve after you sleep. And similarly, marks go down if you don't get enough sleep. So that quality sleep is really important to aid our memory when we're learning new information. So, to summarise, I do hope we're having these conversations at home of how our year 11s, as well as other year groups who have got summer exams, PPEs coming up, of how they are revising and tackling those mythbusters and talking about techniques that you think will suit your student at home to support them with their exams. So if you would like any more information, please contact myself or Mr. Puttick, and we will be able to point you in the right direction for what you can do to improve your revision techniques. Take care, and I'll see you soon.